Hello, dear listeners of Triumph and Trials. Today we have with us Heather Hurd. So, Heather, let me start with the very first question. So, explain us first of all, since when you've been a business owner, what type of business you are running, and yeah, those little things.
Yeah, absolutely. So, first, thank you for having me on the podcast. I'm very excited to be here. I have been a business owner in one way or another for quite some time, but I have started to go out on my own with just doing my own business only in the last 6 months or so. And I run a brand and content marketing consultancy. I
Okay.
do brand and content marketing strategy and content strategy, content creation, and a bit of personal branding work as well. And of course, at the same time, because an entrepreneur loves to cause problems for themselves, I am also supporting my husband as he starts his own business, opening a cafe here in Delft, where we live.
Yeah, I think that's yeah, you guys decide to go for the big challenge,
Yes,
both
of
going
course.
for entrepreneurship and running your own
Might as well
business.
change everything at once, right?
No, you're right. So here's a question for you, because as the podcast is called Trials and Triumph. So what was your biggest success up to now as a business owner?
Yeah, it's funny when you work in marketing to go into business in marketing because suddenly you find yourself in the very strange place of having to market yourself, which
Right.
is, not what we do. I market other people. I think my biggest success coming out was being able to leverage a really, really supportive and large community network that I have that I had made over many, many years of working in corporate environments, and being able to sort of take that network and pull from it not only clients who I'm working with, which is fantastic, but also being able to pull from them other experts. So
Okay.
I'm not a graphic designer, so being able to pull in graphic designers or SEO experts or people that I knew who were doing great work, and then that would enabled me to not only support them in their growth, but then to also offer more services for my clients.
Okay, that's good. That's great. So, and now the a little bit less exciting part. Uh, what were up to now your biggest failures, and what did you
Yeah,
learn from these?
yeah. I think that my biggest failure probably was around pricing my services. It was really difficult for me in the beginning to set prices that I felt like felt fair and felt like they covered my needs, but at the same time were something that someone would pay. And so in the beginning, when I first started out, a couple of the initial clients that I had, I was definitely pricing far too low for the amount of work
Okay.
that it ended up taking. So it was a difficult and a little bit financially painful lesson to learn around how much time it was really going to take. I think it's to make the transition away from working for a corporation and move into working for myself. I think I underestimated initially how much time it was going to
Yeah.
take to kind of get back into the right headspace. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, that was definitely the biggest failure and lesson learned.
So I mean, the pricing thing is interesting one when you said you priced yourself too low, because I mean we know prices are made up, right? Um, so why did you had the I don't know the need, or how do you come to price yourself too low? What was driving that
Yeah.
decision?
In the beginning, when I was first starting out, I had such a feeling of how important it was to bring in as many clients as I could quickly. And so I think my thought process then was, if I come in at a really competitive price, then I'm going to be able to bring in more clients because I'll be less expensive than other
Right.
competitors. Of course, that sounds great in the beginning, but then the more that I kind of got into that, the more that I realized that there is a sense of you get what you pay for. And when you are pricing yourself far below what other people
Yeah.
are, I think oftentimes potential clients see that and think, oh, well, if you're that much less expensive, then maybe that's a problem.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, and then some people come in with what they call the imposter syndrome. I shouldn't charge that much, and so on and so forth. And but sometimes I think it's nice that you make up a good price and
Yeah.
you don't lower the price. And if they can't pay for it,
Yeah, I actually found that when I raised my price a little bit more, and the way that I ended up working out my pricing was I looked at what I thought was a fair hourly rate for myself and for the work that I knew I would be doing, taking into account that I would be doing prep work ahead of time and often be on meetings with clients, not just the actual doing of the work. And then from there, kind of for each one, tried to figure out. I do like a project-based pricing, not hourly, but I did start out with that
yeah,
hourly in my head, so that I could then say, okay, looking at this project, I think it's going to take me around this long, so I will
mm,
make that
mm,
the package price. And that ended up working out much better for me. It gave me a much more competitive price.
right.
And I've been able to sort of find a niche where I am pricing enough that I'm being paid fairly for the work that I'm doing, but not so much that clients
Yeah,
feel kept away from it.
yeah. I think it's a very good lesson because a lot of
Yeah.
people struggle with getting prices. And I recently read in a book from how is it called? I have Hormozi, Hormozi, where he says that
Yes.
most people go for to the calculate the price. They look at the how much the competitors are charging. They go in the average value, take a bit out. So they say, I'm a bit cheaper. It's going to be easier and so on. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and
But you're right.
I think that's exactly what it is. I think people want to be competitive, and so they want to charge lower so that they look like a good deal. But
Yeah.
I find that in providing services, that it doesn't usually work that way. Maybe it's different if you're providing physical goods, but for services, not so much.
Yeah, because you have to provide value, not a price. You have to provide a value.
Yeah,
If you provide the best possible value, the price is not even part of the conversation
yeah.
or for the fun, because there are countless cultures where they like to negotiate anyway. But yeah. So what else? What else didn't work that well or did hurt you and required
Yeah,
that you learn something?
sure. I think one of the other things that I really struggled with initially was the administration of it. So,
Okay.
moving away from a corporate environment and into an environment where I was having to manage everything for myself, not just the work. And so I had to figure out how to keep track of my bookkeeping and how to keep track of my hours, how to keep track of the project management side of the work. And those were all things that I had experience managing, but not doing for myself. And so initially, I think I caused myself a lot more stress than I needed to by sort of not having a plan in place ahead of time to manage those things. And so I was sort of strapping it all together in a very messy Excel spreadsheet. And that not the way to go. As a pro tip, don't do that. So, moving beyond that and kind of figuring out that there are a million tools out there that all work really well to solve for those needs, but I just hadn't planned for them moving into it. And so, you jump in with the idea that you have a great product or service and you can just get rolling with it. And when you're doing it on your own, I at least did not stop initially to think there's a lot more that goes into the admin side of it that
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared for right
Yeah.
away. Thankfully,
And
I've solved those problems since then.
yeah. And so you would say it's better to go for tools or to look out for a VA or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's hard to know what to do when it comes to that kind of thing because I think, you don't want to spend money when you're
Mm,
first starting out. You don't want
yeah.
to buy a tool to do something because you're not making money yet, so you don't want to spend it. But honestly, I've found that there are a lot of really good like free tools out there. So there are
Yeah.
opportunities to solve those problems in a way that doesn't spend money initially. They all have limitations because you're not paying for the service, but yeah. So then as you grow, you can then solve from there.
Yeah, but as you said, you at the beginning, you just need a tool to help you. You don't need all the bells and whistles of the
Exactly. Yeah.
fully equipped version with all the things
Yeah.
that
Yeah. I
you're
don't
not
need to
going
run
to
a team
use
of 100
anyway,
just yet.
and you're never going to use those options anyway. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and as a person, what have you learned about yourself over the
I
process?
Yeah, that's a really good question. As a person, uh, I think that I am really enjoying the process of working for myself now, and I'm finding that I had lost some of the passion I had for the creative parts of my work.
Okay.
And hadn't really realized that, I think, because in a corporate situation when things are very busy, when you're running a large team, it's easy to get sort of bogged down in the day to day of just keeping the wheels turning.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of things to get bogged down in working for yourself as well. But I'm learning that, I definitely do still have that creative spark and that passion for it. And I think that I had lost touch with that a little bit. So it's been nice to rediscover.
Okay. So, and you always kept what you know as the focus of your business. You didn't try to run after other options because you needed money or stuff like that, or I call them the shiny bullets, like many call them.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have worked when I worked in brand and content marketing for a million years now. Let's not talk about exactly how many.
Well, you don't look that old.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, I've been doing it for a long time. And so, and for a really probably the last, I don't know, probably 5 years or so, I had sort of thought in the back of my mind, like maybe this is something that I could do for myself so that I would have a little
Mhm.
bit more control over the kind of work that I was doing and how I was spending my time. And I think that's another maybe important lesson is that I think when you are in the early stages of thinking about what it might be like to start your own business, there's a lot of focus about the idea that you'll have more freedom, that you'll
Yes.
have more flexibility, that your schedule will be more your own. And that is absolutely true. And it's a huge benefit that you have a lot more choice about when and how and where you work. But I do think that it is another important lesson as you're getting started. You start to realize quite quickly that it doesn't mean that you have more free time. In fact, if
Yes. Yeah.
anything, at least in the beginning, you have less free time because again, you're trying to get your head around all of the administrative things that you didn't think of, and
Mm.
you are marketing yourself as well as doing the work. And so I think in the end, in the beginning at least, you end up having quite a bit less free time, and that's an important thing for people to keep in mind. You have to be really passionate. You have to really want it to work
Yeah.
because in the beginning, you're going to be spending every moment doing it.
Yeah. I like the fact that you say that we should not confuse freedom and free time, which are
Yeah,
very different
very
things.
different.
Yeah. And so I don't remember. Do you have children or not?
What was that?
Do you have children, kids or not?
I have one.
Okay.
I have one child who is 15, and yeah, and has often credited having a marketer mother for being really good at writing essays at school.
But as you said, you spend a lot of time on your business, so your husband does the same. How do you manage that at the family level? Because very often we talk about business, but I mean, we're human beings. We have lives.
Yeah, there's more to it. And I do think that is where that is sort of one of the benefits of working for yourself, where not free time, but freedom,
Mm,
is that I have much more flexibility when it comes to when I do my work. And so I can get up really early in the morning and get a few hours of work done, pause and have breakfast with my family. Then the child goes off to school. And then, my husband goes off to the cafe and I can spend some time there at the cafe. And then take a lunch break and do a little more work. I can do work in the evenings.
mhm, mhm.
I can do work when we have downtime. If we have a lazy Saturday, I can spend some time doing work then. And so it allows me to sort of pocket things into the
Yeah.
places where it fits into my life. So it works a bit better that way. And the same goes for things like taking time for vacation. I can, when there is downtime on vacation, I can choose to work or I can choose not to work. And now, certainly, when you're working for a corporation or something, when you take vacation, hopefully you
Mm,
just take a vacation and you don't choose to work at all.
absolutely.
Although coming from an American background, that's often not true. You do sometimes work. But yeah, I think that that's kind of how I have been able to find the balance is to be able to structure my schedule. And when I'm making a new contract with a new client, I make that contract with an idea in my head already of what my next couple of weeks or couple of months will look like. And so I can set timelines accordingly and say, I know that I'm going to be, out this couple of days with a friend who's coming to visit, or that my child has a school meeting that I'll need to go to this evening. And I can sort of plot all of those things into the
Yeah.
timeline so that
Yeah.
I'm quoting a time that takes my life into account.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. Yeah. So any other lessons that you've learned over that
Uh,
period as a business owner?
um, so many lessons, I think. I think the biggest one for me, and I touched on this a little bit already, but was just to really reach out to my network and trust in my network of
Okay.
old coworkers and new people I have connected with, because I have found that, again, I've found clients that way. I've been able to support friends that way, but I've also just found a huge amount of value in the resources that my network will share. Building up my LinkedIn presence and spending a lot of time on sharing content there has then led to people connecting with me, who have then just on a whim shared an article that they found or a conference that they thought was interesting. Or like in about 2 weeks now, I'll be speaking at a conference.
Nice.
It's the Martech Festival here in Utrecht, and it was just by chance that I happened to connect via my network to be able to even know the conference existed, let alone get to speak. So it's things like that where really leaning into the relationship building aspect of it. And it can't just be cold messaging people on LinkedIn saying, hey, would you like to access my
Yeah.
services, or let's
Yeah.
please buy
Yeah.
my stuff. But really taking the time to make real connections with people and build out those relationships.
Yeah, I know it's always very funny because when I connect with people, I always suggest, okay, we have connected. Let's have a virtual cappuccino together. And very often people say, oh,
Yeah.
why? But because we are human beings. We want to at least see ourselves, get a human connection. There may be nothing. I'm
Yes,
not going to sell you
exactly.
anything. You may not sell me anything, but at least we have a human connection. We are human beings, for God's sake. So,
Especially as entrepreneurs too, because I think
yes.
that when you are doing your own thing, it's so easy to be really, focused on the work, and you lose some of that opportunity to connect. So yeah, as much as possible, I try to meet in person with clients when I can,
Oh, yeah.
or at the very least do a cameras on Zoom call to
Yeah. Yeah.
get
Yeah.
connected to people and remember that it is and I think it helps with business too, because it helps your clients remember that you also are a real person.
Yeah.
And
Another.
that can be nice when, timelines get fuzzy or things get a little complicated.
Yeah, they
A
know
small
who they
reminder.
talk to. Yeah. No, it's a very good point. So as we are talking about very good points, what would be for today the 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 one thing that you want the listeners to take with them to learn today? The one thing they should remember after this interview.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. That's another big question. Okay. If it was only one thing that they would take away from this, I would say that I would really want the listeners to take away from it that those things that you have passion for, those things either about the work that you do or the things you spend your time doing on the side, there is a market for them. And if you are really interested in and passionate about pushing them forward and making a space for that to be something that potentially brings you in some money, chase it. Start looking into it and start looking at what you think it would take, and start reaching out to other connections who may be doing something similar, and see where you can really make it lead. I think people would be surprised to discover how often there are opportunities if you just ask.
Yeah, so I like that you make the transitions easy for me because so you said about get in touch with people. So how can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about you, if they want to benefit from your experience, or even ask you
Yeah.
for your services? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so I think the easiest way is just my website. It is duskmarketing.nl. Or you can find me on LinkedIn, Heather Hurd, at Dusk Marketing. And I would strongly encourage anyone who's interested to reach out on LinkedIn. I love to connect with people and just have a chat. Happy to talk through, any insights that I can give people. So try to give back where I can.
Okay, thank you so much, Heather, for this talk
You
today.
are very
Really
welcome.
enjoyed it. I hope we hear you back and see you back on the podcast very soon.
That would be fantastic. Thank you so much.